Okay, so the next problem in the lead code we are solving is number of recent calls. Okay, so basically what we need to do here is we have given the class, okay, recent counter, and we have given the constructor class, constructor method, and this function, empty function method. Okay, so what is the task is, let's say this will be instantiated first. Okay, they will be creating an object for this. Okay, and for the next time we'll be getting a call for this function ping. Okay, and what is the time? Okay, like I mean it will be in millisecond. Okay, like if let's start it from 0, and let's say that I'm sending a request at 50 milliseconds, so that I will get a 50 here. Okay, if I'm sending a request at 1 second, it means 1000 millisecond, I might be getting t is equal to 1000. Okay, so this is what they're doing. Okay, so now what is the task is, we'll have to identify how many calls have occurred in the last 3000 millisecond, which is 3 seconds. Okay, so now we understood that we'll be getting, like after instantiating this, we'll be getting that like I mean sequentially we'll be getting multiple ping calls. Okay, and we'll have to identify in the last 3000 millisecond how many calls this has made. Okay, like I mean we got a received. Okay, so now how to approach this problem, right? Either basically what does it mean here is, let's say that over a span of 10 seconds, let's say that if we are trying to check it at the 4 second, okay, 4000 millisecond, we need to ignore the hold calls, right? Like let's say that if there are n number of pings in first second, right? Like I'm 500 millisecond, 1000 millisecond, 1500, like all these things we'll be ignoring, right? Sorry, if we are considering 4000, we should be considering till 3 to 1, right? Yeah, like I mean the calls between 1000 millisecond and 4000 millisecond we'll have to consider. Correct, anything that is behind beside, like I mean older calls, right, we need to ignore it, right? We'll just flush it off, like I mean whatever the old one, right, we'll just flush it off, and we'll whatever that is left, right, we'll take a account of it and we'll just return it. So because that's what will give the number of recent calls. Okay, so basically how to approach it, this is actually a queue, like as we can see here, right, it's a first in first out. Correct. So 50 millisecond, 100 millisecond, those have occurred first, but we don't need it, we'll just first flush it out, like it's the first arrived, and we'll be removing it out. Okay, so basically self dot recent request, right, this is a queue. Okay, this is a queue. Okay, and what we are going to do is, and also we need to consider the current request also when we are generating the number of recent calls. Okay, so once we get the t, we'll add it to the queue. Okay, and now we'll check like what are the valid values or not. Okay, like if the queue is present or it is empty. Okay, and ideally it won't be empty for the first time. Okay, and when we start popping it out, that will need it. Okay, so what we'll do is, we have got multiple ping attempts and we have filled our recent request. Correct. So at some point in time we got some request, what we'll do is we'll iterate through the queue and we'll check if it is valid or if it is within the last 3000 millisecond or not. If it is yes, we'll break this loop. Okay, if it is greater than, okay, if it is not, we will pop that element. Okay, like let's say that if the as we discussed before, right, 4000 millisecond is the current time. Okay, and there is a, in the queue there are entries for 500 milliseconds and 750 milliseconds, 1000 milliseconds, right, which is behind, like I mean older than the 3 seconds. Correct. Those calls we'll just pop it out, and then finally once we popped out, we'll return the elements that are present in the current queue. So that will give us the number of recent calls. To summarize, we have given the, like we have a queue. Okay, and that has a list of timestamps. Okay, and now we'll have to get the number of timestamps that is like I mean within the last 3 seconds. Okay, so what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to remove the older API calls that were came before 3 seconds. Okay, we'll remove it and then we'll getting the count of the within that range. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.